3 o'clock.
Hello, this is Holly Wimsatt, the Director of the Bureau of Disability Services. I want to welcome you to the BEADS Provider and Case Manager webinar. I want to start with noting that we had some technical issues last week, so we appreciate if you are able to join us today. We will be posting this recording and apologize for any inconvenience last week. So we will go ahead and get started. Next slide. If you need or want live captions, to turn those on, the live captions and subtitles, select Captions, Subtitles On in your video controls. To change the caption language, select Settings, Caption Subtitles, and then choose the language you want. If you have a question, on the right side of your screen, select Q&A, type your question in the compose box and make sure you click Send. Your question will only be visible to presenters. It will not be visible to the entire audience. And then we will answer questions as time permits. To sign in for today's meeting, again, go to your Q&A box on the right side of your screen. Under the featured list, find the link for the sign-in sheet. Click the link, complete the form, and submit. Your certificate of attendance you will receive will have the title and date of today's meeting and an electronic signature. We cannot accommodate special requests for certificates of attendance. Okay, so again, welcome. We're going to talk about a number of items today: waiver transition in the public comment period, new provider application policy. We'll talk a little bit about the innovation pilot projects. We have some reminders that we try to include those. And then we will talk about provider webinar topic invitation. So I'm sure that most, if not all of you, have heard of the waiver transition. We want to talk about kind of what that is. So the waiver transition is really the creation of a new waiver and administration of the age and disabled, or A&D waiver, for individuals 60 plus for the Indiana Pathways for Aging program that will have oversight by the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning, or OMPP. I do see that we're seeing some comments that there's some difficulties with people signing in. So we will see about addressing that as we can, and we'll publish something if we can get that corrected. Again, apologize for technical issues. If you look at the Q&A, we will try to get back with everyone on that. Anyway, the waiver transition, the oversight of the age and disabled waiver, ages 60 and up, again, will go to the Indiana Pathways for Aging with oversight by the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning. The waiver transition includes the transition of the oversight for the current age and disabled waiver, ages 59 and under, and the TBI waiver in its entirety to the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services, the Bureau of Disability Services. The waiver transition is happening to enhance waiver administration across FSSA divisions while ensuring a positive and smooth transition for all HCBS waiver recipients and also the providers. And our goal is really to increase person-centered planning, improve coordination of care, increase community engagement, enhance the experience of individuals receiving HCBS, maintain qualified providers, and then, of course, comply with the home and community-based settings rule while also promoting efficiency. So the waiver transition has required a lot of strong collaboration between the Division of Aging, DDRS or BEADS, our friends at the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning, or OMPP, and a lot of work with also with our partners at CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. Additionally, there has been a good deal of stakeholder engagement with various consumer groups, providers, area agencies on aging, care and case management entities, the Commission on Aging, and the Choice Board. So, as I alluded in the previous slide, individuals age 60 and above currently enrolled in the Age and Disabled waiver will transition to the Indiana Pathways for Aging waiver program, as was announced in 2022. The Age and Disabled waiver for ages 59 and under will become the Health and Wellness waiver, and waiver services will remain aligned between the Health and Wellness and waiver and the Pathways for Aging waiver. That's very important. As you recall, I mentioned just on the last slide about one of the goals being a very smooth transition for individuals. Ensuring that waiver services remain aligned between the Health and Wellness and Pathways is one of the ways we are supporting people through that smooth transition. Individuals who are identified to move to the Pathways for Aging program will be notified in writing. So again, overall objective is a positive and smooth experience for individuals receiving services through the Age and Disabled waiver and the TBI waiver, and for their providers, and to maintain that structure across divisions. And then by March of 2024, we will submit final waiver amendments to our federal partners at CMS. We have received the question of what will happen to non-HCBS or Medicaid waivers related to this transition. The population of the Hoosier Care Connect waiver will also be modified to reflect that members who will be ages 59 and under, as those 60 and over, will be served under Pathways. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Today, I'll walk through the waiver amendments that are currently out for public comment. This is a depiction of the current FSSA home and community-based services programs between the Division of Aging and DDRS or BEADS. Currently, the Division of Aging has oversight of Choice, Older Americans Act programs, the Aging and Disability Resource Center support, and Adult Protective Services. The Division of Aging also has oversight of their traumatic brain injury waiver. That's about 130 enrollees, approximately. And then the Age and Disabled or A&D waiver, Division of Aging has oversight. On this depiction, we have separated out the Age and Disabled waiver populations for 60 and over and 59 and under. Again, that's we are showing it in this way to further clarify what will happen at the waiver transition. So currently on the Age and Disabled waiver, there's approximately 28,000 people being served that are 60 and over, and about 11,000 individuals being served or supported through the A&D waiver that are 59 and under. DDRS or BEADS will continue oversight. We have oversight now, and we'll continue oversight of the Community Integration and Habilitation waiver, the CIH waiver, and the Family Support waiver. And you can see our current enrollees on the CIH is about 9,000, and the current enrollees on the Family Support waiver is about 23,000. So as I mentioned, we have some waiver amendments out for public comment right now, and we will go through a high-level review of what those amendments contain. But want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity or knows where to find those documents. So the Health and Wellness, CIH, TBI, and FSW waiver documents can be found on the Indiana Register, and also on DDRS web pages. I'm not going to read those web pages to you. They will be included in the slide deck that will be posted. But I want to point out that paper copies are available upon request, and people can request those paper copies at the local Division of Family Resources or DFR offices, or at your local BEADS office. If paper copies are desired, that's how you can access those, and we will be happy to get those to you. To find copies of the Pathways and Hoosier Care Connect waiver documents, those can also be found at the FSSA webpage on the public notice page, as well as the Indiana Register. And paper copies of Hoosier Care Connect waiver amendment and the Pathways for Aging waivers are available in paper copy at the local Division of Family Resource offices or the local area agency office. Where are the changes within the waiver documents? So the waiver amendments are pretty sizable documents, so we want to make sure that that you know where to find the changes or where to look for those. So each waiver and waiver amendment is posted separately for review. Within the Health and Wellness, the CIH, the Traumatic Brain Injury, and the Family Support Waiver Amendments, there are introductory sections, Section 2 in the waiver amendments, and it is titled Purpose of Amendment. This section reflects the primary reasons for the proposed amendments at a summary level, and then reflects the most substantive or significant changes being proposed. In the new Pathways 1915C waiver, and there are narratives or language changes within various sections and appendices of the waiver. Within the Hoosier Care Connect 1915B waiver, there's an amendment request overview section that lists where changes are found. The language changes do not necessarily mean policies and procedures within a waiver are changing, so I want to note that. As previously shared, many areas across the amendments have language updates to reflect existing processes that are already in place as part of the waiver administration. These changes were made in recognition that FSSA is operationally following the same procedures in several major areas of waiver operations. However, in the past, because the what is the A&D waiver and the TBI waiver today, and the CIH and the FSW waivers were described or were written by different divisions. Sometimes, even though the operations were the same, they were described, the operations were written or described differently in the waiver amendment. So we have taken this opportunity to align some of that language. For today, we're going to highlight the significant changes to the waivers following the first public comment period, which occurred in November through part of December. And we are also going to talk about waiver amendments or changes in the waiver amendments that are currently out for public comment. We're not going to focus on language edits or minor alignments across the waiver documents. Next slide. Okay, the family support waiver. We're going to go over the amendment overview. For those, I think most of you are aware, but the family support waiver provides support to children and adults with intellectual or developmental disabilities. The updates in the January waiver amendment draft, so those drafts that are currently out for public comment, it maintains the provider rates as approved by CMS and effective July 1st of 2023. It also includes permissive authority to index rates in the future as the fiscal situation allows. It adds a priority category for individuals on the age and disabled waiver who are subsequently found to not meet nursing facility level of care, but who do meet ICFID level of care, which is the level of care required for the family support waiver. Additionally, the waiver amendment draft out for public comment right now clarifies the $15,000 vehicle modification cap is for every 10 years, not a lifetime cap. It clarifies the policies surrounding the allowance of services provided by legally responsible individuals to sustainably provide services with appropriate checks and balances. Now, in the December public comment period, we shared some items in those amendments that added, and those still are in this set of amendments as well. We added a new employment array service called Career Exploration, and this is really to implement part of our employment, or phase one of our employment transformation plan, and it provides additional service and support options for individuals pursuing competitive integrated employment opportunities. So you may recall that DDRS has a goal of 38% of individuals in our services would report competitive integrated employment outcomes by the year 2027. So that employment array, the career exploration, is again part of phase one of our employment systems transformation. The other part of that is not on the slide here, but that is part of that, the amendments that were shared in the previous public comment period in November and December, halts the entrance of transition age individuals, so 18 to 24, into facility-based pre-vocational services. Again, that's facility-based pre-vocational services. That is also, again, part of phase one of the employment systems transformation. Additionally, we added the home modification assessment service, or proposed adding that to the family support waiver. We believe this particular service may add an additional opportunity for enhanced quality of environmental modifications. And this service is currently available on the age and disabled waiver only. So we saw this as an opportunity to create some alignment in services as well as part of the waiver transition. So we have proposed adding home modification assessment service. We also made changes to the behavior support services and case management services definition in recognition of the employment services transformation plan. And again, this really kind of clarified that the role behavior support services and case management services can have in an individual's path towards competitive integrated employment. I do want to note that we received some public comment after, of course, from the November-December public comment period, and there was some identified need for clarity around the behavior support services definition and competitive integrated employment. So in the January waiver amendment draft that is out for public comment now, we provided some additional clarification of the behavior support service definition by noting that competitive integrated employment is one area in which behavior support services can support an individual. Additionally, in the items shared during the November-December public comment period, we made some minimal changes to service definitions that really was to clarify service outcomes and potential ways services could be used, as well as align descriptions, service descriptions across multiple waivers for consistency reasons, with the goal to reduce confusion for individuals, families, and for providers. The CIH waiver amendment overview. Again, the CIH provides supports to children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The updates in the January waiver amendment draft include, much as with the the family support waiver. It maintains the provider rates as approved by CMS that went into effect July 1st in 2023, and includes permissive authority to index rates in the future as fiscal situation allows. It also revises the count of expected participants due to Money Follows the Person program. And as we talked about with the family support waiver, it clarifies the $15,000 vehicle modification cap is for every 10 years and not per lifetime. The items shared during the November-December public comment period also, again, much like the family support waiver, or exactly like the family support waiver, it included the new employment array service of career exploration. It also included the proposal to add home modification assessment service to the CIH waiver, just as with the family support waiver. It made changes to the behavior support service and case management service definitions to clarify the role of those services in competitive integrated employment, and it made minimal changes to service definitions, again, to further clarify service outcomes, potential ways services could be used, and to align descriptions across multiple waivers for consistency. The health and wellness waiver amendment, we're going to talk about that for a little bit. Again, health and wellness waiver was formerly the age and disabled waiver for individuals 59 and under. So the health and wellness waiver will provide support to children and adults age 59 and under who meet nursing facility level of care. The updates in the January waiver amendment draft adjust the timeframe for continuity of care for existing service plans to a minimum 90-day period to match timeframes in existing managed care programs. Following this period, services may not be reduced or terminated in the absence of an up-to-date assessment of need that supports said reduction or termination. It clarifies the policies surrounding the allowance of services provided by legally responsible individuals, often referred to as LRIs, to sustainably provide services with the appropriate checks and balances. It will permit for structured family caregiving and will not permit for attendant care. It maintains the provider rates as approved by CMS and effective July 1st of 2023. And as with the CIH and FSW amendment, it includes permissive authority to index rates in the future as fiscal situation allows. The health and wellness waiver keeps the amendment out for public comment now, keeps the number of waiver slots consistent with previously approved aged and disabled waiver slots. It adds an explanation of potential waitlist procedures and clarifies language on selection of entrants to the waiver. Additionally, the updates in the January waiver amendment draft currently up for public comment includes updates to the cost neutrality information. It revises language regarding when auto assignments occur for those who do not select a Pathways MCE. And again, this applies to those transitioning from health and wellness to the Pathways waiver at their 60th birthday. It removes reference to exclusion for the family ownership of an agency. And as with the family support waiver and CIH waiver, it clarifies the $15,000 vehicle modification cap is a 10-year cap and not a lifetime cap. The items shared during the November-December public comment period included that we made minimal changes to service definitions to clarify service outcomes and potential ways services could be used. There were minor changes to language in the waiver to align all 1915C waivers with matching language. It switched the waiver oversight of the health and wellness, or the age and disabled waiver, 59 and under in this case, from Division of Aging to the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. It changed the name to the Health and Wellness Waiver, or H&W waiver. And it changed the waiver target population to serve individuals age 0 to 59. Again, noting anyone 60 and over will transition to pathways for aging. Okay, the TBI waiver amendment. As a reminder, the TBI waiver provides support to people who have experienced a traumatic brain injury. The updates in the January waiver amendment draft that are out for public comment currently maintains provider rates as approved by CMS and effective July 1st, 2023. As with the other waiver amendments, it includes permissive authority to index rates in the future as fiscal situation allows. It adds transfers as an allowable activity under attendant care service definition. It removes the reference to exclusion for the family ownership of an agency. As with the other amendments, it clarifies that the $15,000 vehicle modification cap is a 10-year cap and not a lifetime cap. It clarifies the policies surrounding the allowance of services provided by legally responsible individuals, or LRIs, to sustainably provide services with appropriate checks and balances. It will permit LRIs to provide structured family caregiving and will not permit LRIs to provide attendant care. The items shared during the November-December public comment period for the TBI waiver made minor changes to language in the waiver to align the 1915C waivers with matching language. Switched the waiver oversight from the Division of Aging to the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. Added the structured family caregiving service. So we saw currently the structured family caregiving is a service on the CIH and the age and disabled waiver. We have heard from stakeholders that individuals receiving supports through the TBI waiver desire more residential options. So we took this opportunity to add structured family caregiving service to the TBI waiver. And again, as with the CIH and FSW, we took this opportunity to also add home modification assessment service to enhance the quality of home modifications or environmental modifications. So we proposed adding those two services to the TBI waiver as well. And then we made minimal changes to service definitions to clarify service outcomes and potential ways services could be used, and aligning descriptions across the multiple waivers for consistency reasons. So who will be served by the Indiana Pathways for Aging? Again, these are new waivers. Individuals who will be served through Indiana Pathways for Aging include individuals who are 60 and over who are aged, blind, and disabled and qualify for Medicaid services, or individuals, including individuals who are age 60 and over currently enrolled in Hoosier Care Connect, or qualify for both Medicare and Medicaid, or individuals 60 and over who receive services on the age and disabled waiver or receive services in a nursing facility. So updates in the January waiver draft for the Pathways waivers adjust the time frame for continuity of care for existing service plans to a minimum 90-day period to match timeframes in existing managed care programs. Following that 90-day period, services may not be reduced or terminated in the absence of an up-to-date assessment of the needs that supports said reduction or termination. The updates in the January waiver draft amendment currently out for public comment clarifies the policies surrounding the allowance of services provided by legally responsible individuals, or LRIs, to provide sustainably provide services with appropriate checks and balances. As with the health and wellness waiver, because you will recall there is maintained alignment between health and wellness and pathways. LRIs, or legally responsible individuals, will be permitted to provide structured family caregiving, but will not permit legally responsible individuals to provide attendant care. The Pathways for Aging waivers will maintain provider rates as approved by CMS and effective July 1st of 2023. And it includes waivers include permissive authority to index rates in the future as fiscal situation allows. It keeps the number of waiver slots consistent with previously approved slots. It adds explanation of potential waitlist procedures and reserve capacity for individuals aging out of the health and wellness waiver to ensure continuity of care. It clarifies language on selection of entrants to the waiver. It revises language regarding when auto assignments occur for those who do not select an MCE. It removes reference to exclusion for the family ownership of an agency. And then with the other waiver amendments, it clarifies that $15,000 vehicle modification cap is a 10-year cap and not a lifetime cap. Things to note that were previously shared in the Pathways drafts. This waiver is a 1915B-C combination. The 1915B waiver authorizes the managed care program, and the 1915C waiver provides the home and community-based services currently available on the age and disabled waiver for ages 60 plus. Those receiving hospice services when they become eligible for Pathways and American Indians, Alaska Natives can opt in to managed care. Any changes around service definitions are minimal and do not affect services. All enrollees are eligible to receive care coordination, and enrollees who have a nursing facility level of care will also be offered service coordination. Service definitions will remain aligned with the current age and disabled waiver. For more information about the Pathways program, you can find that at in.gov/pathways. So the Hoosier Care Connect waiver amendment, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to note that this waiver amendment posting is in addition to what was posted in November through part of December's public comment period. That is because the Hoosier Care Connect waiver amendment just came due for posting. So the Hoosier Care Connect provides support to individuals age 59 and under who are blind, disabled, or a ward of the state through the child welfare system. Individuals excluded from Hoosier Care Connect include individuals age 60 and older, individuals who receive services through a 1915C waiver, and individuals who live in a facility or institution, and individuals who are also on Medicare. The update in the January waiver amendment draft of Hoosier Care Connect, it just changes the waiver target population to serve individuals 59 and under. Again, noting ages 60 and above will be served through the Pathways waiver. Next slide. So I want to spend just a little bit talking about the purpose of public comment. So public comment is required by federal law, and federal law mandates a 30-day notice to ensure timeliness. I want to stress that comments are valuable in developing and implementing waiver changes. The state considers each comment submitted for review. The public comment period gives us as a state an opportunity to change areas of the proposed amendments prior to submitting for approval. So some of the updates in the new waiver drafts include edits based on the first public comment period. I specifically, as an example, talked about the behavior support service definition. That public comment period in November, December included some comments that made it clear to us that we needed to make some further clarification in that definition, which we have done in the amendment drafts that are currently out for public comment. So, we do hear you and listen. It also, public comment allows communities time to see what and review what we are planning and share both any concerns and support for the changes. So again, what is currently out for public comments, the following waivers were previously out for public comment November 8th through December 14th. And we already gave a high-level overview of the changes in that in those waiver draft amendments. A latest public comment period includes some of the things that we already talked about in the high-level overviews, but currently the family support waiver, the community integration habilitation waiver, the traumatic brain injury waiver, the health and wellness waiver, formerly known as the age and disabled waiver for those under 59 and under, and then the Pathways 1915 BC waivers, including those served by the A&D waiver for those 60 plus, are out for public comment now. And the Hoosier Care Connect waiver is also out for public comment. Again, I want to note that that was not out for public comment in November because it was not due for public comment, but it is out for public comment now. The public comment period, oh, sorry, a little out of order here. My slides are. The how to submit public comment. So comments for the on the health and wellness, TBI, FSW, and CIH waivers can be emailed to DDRS waiver notice comment at fssa.in.gov or mailed to the address listed. We ask that all public comments be submitted either via email or via postal mail because we are required to track all of those and certainly want to make sure that all of those are recorded and noted appropriately. The comments for the Pathways and Hoosier Care Connect waivers can be emailed to the backhome.indiana@fssa.in.gov email address or mailed to our partners at the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning at the address you see here. The timeline for public comment for all of these waivers and waiver amendments, it began January 17th and will end February 16th, with the planned effective date for all of these amendments and the Pathways waivers continues to be July 1st of 2024. So we have some resources about public comment that we want to share. There is a short how-to video on giving public comment at the link on this slide. This is, can be particularly helpful for individuals who have never given public comment before. So we would encourage you to feel comfortable sharing that resource. But again, that public comment period ends February 16th. Next slide. So also wanted to include some links to the Medicaid strategies. There is a web page dedicated to that, and it is listed here. It is the in.gov/FSSA/Medicaid strategies-strategies. And then we also have some information about paid family caregivers resource as it relates to the age and disabled waiver today. And we have that link on this slide as well. And we would invite you to go to those websites for additional information regarding the age and disabled waiver and Medicaid strategies. Okay, new provider application policy as of January 1st, 2024 for BEADS. So on January 1st, BEADS updated the new provider application policy. Key updates include that we have discontinued the letter of intent requirement for organizations applying to become a BEADS provider. We will accept provider applications throughout the year. Moving forward, BEADS provider applicants successfully completing documentation requirements will receive a provisional approval, and applicants will have 1 year from the date of provisional approval to complete the initial session of the BEADS Leadership Training Series. Upon successful completion of this session, BEADS provider applicants will then seek approval to be a Medicaid provider. And then upon successful completion of the Medicaid provider process, BEADS will issue a final approval once confirming that all statutory and regulatory requirements are met. This new application policy is available on our website, our current DDRS policies website. So we would invite you to take a look at that. We are very excited to provide a leadership training series to incoming providers and welcome your feedback from any providers going through that new process. Next slide. The innovation pilot projects, we have again included the link to find out more information on the pilot projects and to view associated webinars. And we also would encourage you to take a look at the BEADS Facebook page, as we're sharing a lot of opportunities for individuals and entities to get involved with the pilots and groups, and just sharing general information on Facebook. We plan to be sharing video highlights on projects in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that as well. Right, want to offer some reminders here around lease requirements. Individuals living in a provider-owned or controlled setting must have a lease or other legally enforceable agreement, which has the same responsibilities for the individual and protections from eviction that tenants have under landlord-tenant laws. Leases and legal agreements must be signed by all parties, including the legal guardian of the individual, if applicable. Also want to talk about the Division of Family Resources follow-up. So it is extremely important, and I know we have included reminders in previous webinars, but we want to remind all providers and case managers to be responsive to contacts from the Division of Family Resources regarding Medicaid redeterminations, et cetera. And for you as providers and case managers to support families in encouraging them to respond timely to any contacts from our partners at DFR. It is vital for us to make sure that individuals we support do not experience any interruptions or disruptions in the supports and resources they receive. And as we all know, that Medicaid eligibility is key to ensuring those services and supports remain in place. So again, encouraging everyone to be responsive to any DFR contact and to respond in a very timely fashion. Another reminder, and I'm sure you all have seen this before and we'll continue to see that, a provider system administrator must log into the BEADS portal and confirm the provider profile information at a minimum of every 90 days. The provider profile information should be updated anytime there's a change in the provider profile. And I want to stress that this is extremely important because the provider's updating of the provider profile information is directly linked to the choice list that is given to individuals and families when they are entering or in BEADS services. So it's very important that that information be current. This is a feature that we, the provider profile information and providers' ability to update their own information is a feature in the BEADS portal that we added at provider request. So, you know, and realizing that that could positively impact individuals and families' experience with the choice list and their access to services. So we need providers to update that every 90 days at a minimum. You're welcome to update it at any time. Certainly if providers want to go in more often, but we recognize that you are busy. So, you know, every 90 days is the requirement. If you need assistance with completing The provider attestation, please refer to the BEADS portal user guide for providers that is located in the resource section of the BEADS portal under the user guides tab. In addition to the completing the provider attestation on a quarterly basis, tongue-tied, please note that all providers are expected to ensure that the provider contact information in the BEADS portal is accurate. Every provider has access to update this information and should be doing so. That includes, again, if there's a leadership change, an agency contact change, address updates, PO box updates, emails, telephone contacts. The provider representative having access to the BEADS portal are expected to ensure the ongoing accuracy of agency information. BEADS Provider Services is not updating that information. Again, we granted this, built in this feature after some feedback from providers that it would be easier for providers to just, and more convenient and more timely for providers to be able to just do that themselves. So we encourage you to do that. If you are having a technical issue with updating your information, please submit a JIRA ticket and we will work to assist you. If you're not sure how to go about updating that information, again, we would refer you to the resource tab in the BEADS portal. But again, if there's some sort of technical issue you're having, please complete a JIRA ticket, and we are happy to work with you to resolve any issue you might have. Provider referrals reminder. Please check your provider referrals grid and respond to referrals within 30 days. Again, this is a newer feature in the portal. So we realize that people are, there was a user adoption period, but we've been in that period for a bit now. So please make sure that you look at your grid and respond to referrals within 30 days. That response may be an acceptance. It may be rejecting the referral. It may also be requesting additional information on a particular referral. For assistance with completing the provider referrals, you can refer to the user guide for providers, again, located in the resource section of the BEADS portal under the user guides tab. EVV, or electronic visit verification. Again, another reminder, federal law requires personal care service and home health service providers to use an EVV system to document services rendered. The final EVV edits will be activated in April of 2024 for BEADS providers or personal care service providers consistent with federal requirements. In the coming months, FSSA will host multiple opportunities to answer questions related to EVV and to support providers successfully integrating this technology into their practice. The first opportunity is February 26th at 10 a.m., where IHCP, there will be a live EVV town hall webinar. Information on how to register will be available on the Indiana Medicaid provider website. This webinar will be an opportunity to go through reminders and continued best practices around EVV. And if you need support in implementing that EVV in your agency, or if you have questions, we strongly encourage you to participate in that town hall. There are on the slide here that you will see other EVV compliance resources and opportunities for additional support. Again, we strongly encourage you to use this, use these resources to make sure that your agency is in compliance with the EVV requirement. As a reminder, we have been continuing to get some incident reports for positive COVID tests. That was our practice during the PHE. As a reminder, though, effective November 11th of 2023, an IR or incident report is no longer required for an individual who tests positive for COVID. Providers requesting retro units. So this is also something we wanted to provide some additional clarification on. Providers should request modifications to service units in a timely manner. Case managers are only able to update units for the prior month. Timely requests will eliminate, in some cases, the necessity for an STBR submission. So we want to make sure that there is good, strong communication when there is a need to modify units, and that communication between providers and case managers is accomplished in a timely manner. All right. Lastly, we as you know, provide these webinars every other month, and we want to make sure that these webinars are addressing needs and supporting providers and case managers in your work. So if there are topics that you would like to see covered in these webinars, please share that with us. You can share that with us in our chat today, in the Q&A, or you can email us at beadsproviderservices@fssa.in.gov at any time. We begin preparing for these webinars as soon as we finish one. So if you have topics that you, again, would like to see covered, please feel free to let us know as soon as you think of it, because we want to make sure that this time is valuable for you, and that you benefit from the information we provide. All right, looks like we will have some time for some questions. So I've got them up here. One is, will you please explain the pause on rate increases? Thanks. So the rates will continue at the CMS approved rates that went effective July 1st of 2023. So I want to stress that those rates, a lot of work was done in the review of those rates that culminated in a waiver amendments that were sent to CMS and approved back in October, I believe. And those were retroactive to July 1st. The current waiver amendment drafts out for public comment include permissive authority to implement rate indexing as the fiscal situation allows. The next question, the clarification for BMAN, is that clinicians can support participants at day services and supported workplaces. So I believe that question is about the changes in the behavior support service definition. In the items shared in the November-December public comment period, the behavior support service definition was modified to note that behavior support services can be and should be, when appropriate for the individual, utilized to support that individual's path towards competitive integrated employment. The feedback we received from the November-December public comment period indicated some confusion around the behavior support service definition and a concern or a perception that maybe that the changes to the service definition indicated that behavior support services were to be provided only in competitive integrated employment efforts. And we wanted to further clarify that, because that is competitive integrated employment is really related to, or competitive integrated employment and behavior support services. Employment is just one area of life, or one life domain that behavior support services may be provided or may focus on, depending on the individual and their desired outcomes and their needs. So, you know, as BEADS works through with our partners our employment systems transformation plan, again, what we want and have heard is that we want individuals to have opportunities to engage in competitive integrated employment. And we wanted to clarify the role or potential role of case managers and behavior support service providers in supporting people who are who have an outcome of competitive integrated employment, or may at some point want to engage in competitive integrated employment. Our goal is really to make that an opportunity for everyone to engage in competitive integrated employment. And I mentioned previously there is a goal of 38% of individuals in our services would have an outcome of competitive integrated employment or engaged in competitive integrated employment by 2027. So that's our goal. And we want to make sure that our waiver services, our home and community-based services, are supporting individuals and towards that goal. And so the career exploration, the proposed addition of that service, is one step towards providing an array of supports for individuals in their path towards competitive integrated employment. The additional change in the pre-voc facility-based service is another step in that that shared outcome of competitive integrated employment, and making sure that people have the opportunity to engage in that. Right. So I think we have addressed the questions, and we are up on the hour. So we appreciate you joining us. I want to take the last minute to again offer our regrets that we had some technical issues the last time. So we are appreciative of your patience with us, and look forward to our next webinar in, let's see, that would be April. Please send us your ideas or suggestions for content, because again, we want these to be valuable for you. We want to be respectful of your time and make sure that you are gaining something from these webinars. So much appreciate all your work and your efforts to support individuals, and we appreciate your partnership, and we'll talk with you soon.